Hi there. My name's Ty Dan McMillian. I'm sorry. It was really aggressive. I'm sorry. Hi.
Hello, how are you? Oh God, that's funny.
Hi there. My name's Ty Dan McMillian. I am a curator at Wasagamine Community Arts, and today I'm joined by Dan McMillan. He is a best-selling science fiction author, and he has written Eve of Ascension as well as Ark of the Hellion.
Yeah.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Hi, I'm terrific. How are you?
I'm really well. Thanks for asking. Today, Dan's here to share with us a few tips on how to get started when you're just starting out writing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not as mysterious as some people would have you believe it or not.
I believe it or I don't believe it. Never mind.
I will make you a believer.
Perfect. That's what I'm aiming for. So without further ado, let's just get into it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've got a few tips and then wanted to talk a little bit about generating ideas and, getting those creative juices going. And, that's where things really begin. But I guess starting out with tips, the place to begin, if you decide that you want to write and that this is something that you want to do and pursue, you need to start keeping notes. Those notes could be little snippets of dialogue that you hear people say in conversation. Somebody comes back with a really snappy comment and it would make good dialogue. Write it down. If you see something out of the ordinary or hear something or whatever it is that strikes you as being something that you might want to include in the story, you need to start collecting these things because they're going to be beautiful little details that help you to make your story fatter and fuller. To do that, you can carry around a notepad and pen, and some people do that. You can get little tiny ones that fit in your back pocket. Those are perfect. And just you can get little tiny pens also too that'll just slip into a pocket and they click so they don't fill your pocket with ink. And you can do that, or if everybody's got their phone with them now, you can use an app to record. I have a little portable digital recorder that I carry with me everywhere. But whatever you choose to do, make sure that you have it with you a lot of the time because you never know when you're going to encounter those little moments that are story-worthy. Tip number 2 is to make sure that you finish your first draft. Once you've got your idea for a story, you have to remember that writing is rewriting. You can't edit an empty page, right? You have to get that first draft done, knowing that there's going to be little baubles in it, things that you could have done better, but you won't be able to fix those things until you get that first draft written. As you're doing your first draft, don't get hung up on little details. You're going to polish this later. If I come up to a point in the story where she went into and I don't know where she's going to go, I'll put star in my document and I'll come back to those stars later and replace those things with details. But don't get hung up on them because it can stop you from writing. Just move past them, star them, come back to them later, get through that first draft to its completion. Just push the plot ahead until you get to the conclusion of the story. And the last little tidbit that I have for everybody, tip number 3 is find a framework that works for you. In other words, before you sit down and you actually start writing the story, have either in point form, or if you do a little bit of research online, you can find a lot of different ways of doing this. Myself, I use something called the 7-point plot outline, which was kind of brought into the mainstream by an author named Dan Wells, and it works really well for me. So it's 7 points that you can build a story around for a complete story. But find a framework that works for you, get your jot notes done, and then from each jot note, you can expand on that into a section of the story. And as you go from point to point in your notes, expanding on them, when you're done, you've got a completed story.
So, moving right along, you had an exercise for helping with generating ideas for your writing. Tell us a little bit about that.
A lot of people who talk to me about writing or comment on it even, it's like, where do you come up with these ideas? Without trying to sound flippant, because it does sound flippant, the answer is, I don't know / everywhere. So just keeping your eye open and looking for things that have a story in them. But some great ways to extract those and get something that is a good story idea. First off, there's something called what if statements. And it's as simple as finishing up that statement. What if a kid on some dusty desert planet decided that he wanted to join the rebellion and fight against the evil galactic empire, right? And then you've got a very, very basic premise for Star Wars. What if there were a dark dimension hidden from our view, but right next to us? And then you've got Stranger Things, right? So just sometimes going, what if, and just finishing that. And it can be ridiculous because once it's out there and you've said this thing that might be like, hang on, it's not maybe as ridiculous as it first seemed. And there might be something to that you can build on and create a really interesting story. Another thing that people can look at is they might have an idea for a character that they really, really want to write. Like, for example, when I did Ark of the Hellion and the Lost Temple of Pokath, the main character in that series is Lauren Alasia, and she's just a character that I really, really wanted to do. She's kind of a Robin Hood, flouts in the face of the law to do what she feels is morally right. And I just really wanted to do that character. And so that whole series came out of wanting to do that. You might have an event. I'd really like to do a story that includes this event, like a certain type of conflict or combat or something like that. And so you can build around that to ensure that that event makes it into the story. So that would be part of the plot and you can build around it. Or you might have a setting or a world that you really want your story to happen in. And if you do a little bit of developing that world and then put some characters in it and see what happens to them, or you can pit this bunch of characters against that bunch of characters within that setting, it can be a catalyst for coming up with an entire story as well. Other things that I look to are music. Sometimes just a really poetic line from a song can kind of stimulate you to go, hey, if I was to build on that. Also, using Google's photo search, you can just look at pictures. Story Sanctuary, one of my short stories, came from a picture of an old garage. And I just wondered, what if this unassuming building had something really monumental going on inside it that nobody knew about? And a whole story came just from that. Also, you can go online and just Google writing prompts. I've seen websites that say we have like 1,000 writing prompts, and it's just a couple sentences to give you an idea. And so it's a lot of going like no, but then there'll be one that you just go, whoa, hang on a second, I can do something with that. And that becomes the whole cornerstone of the story. You can look at events from your own life or dreams that you've had. I've heard authors say that they had entire series come out of a little snippet of a dream. You can also look at other stories, not plagiarizing, of course, but saying, I didn't like this about that story, so what if it had gone differently? What if something different had happened? And then, of course, in changing one thing, especially if it's early on in the story, it changes the entire outcome of the story, and you've got something original that came from somewhere else. Also, those jot notes that you start keeping sometimes will get you started. When it comes to all of this, the one thing that I can't stress enough is keep everything. Right behind me here, I've got a bin full of binders and notebooks and whatever. And every once in a while, I just flip through them. Actually, the Ascendancy series, Eve of Ascension, Rise of the Sylvans, and Dawn of Luminance, came from some notes that I found from 15 years earlier that at the time didn't really resonate with me, but it was an idea that I had. And then I read them 15 years later, and I was like, whoa, hold it. I can dig into this now. And I developed a whole trilogy of books around a note from years before. Keep it all. Today's junk is tomorrow's potential best-selling story. The other thing I guess that I can say is that if you start researching storytelling online, you will find a myriad of information from different sources, and a lot of it will contradict. You'll find one piece of advice that directly contradicts something that you just read on another website, and both of them may come from equally credible sources. So I guess the bottom line is find something that works for you. That's the key. And some of these people will say, if you don't have, say, plot point 1 fall at the 25% mark of your story, you're doing it wrong. And that's that. Well, it's not that cut and dry. And there's, maybe an equally credible source who will say something different. But if that hard structure works for you and you need to have that plot point fall on a certain page and that works for you, go for it. But if it doesn't, don't worry about it. The whole goal here is just to write a story that you're happy with, have a few other people read it maybe, take some feedback from them, and use that to maybe help you to revise your story after you've written it. And then after you've done that and you've taken feedback from other people, you've done everything that you can with it, you've incorporated feedback from other people, you've probably got a pretty polished piece of work at that point.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. Before we go, do you have any social media platforms that any interested viewers could find you on?
Sure. You can check out my website at www.vector11studio.com. So that's Vector spelled out 11studio.com. And you can also find me on Amazon or Kobo, wherever you buy your books. Search for Daniel McMillan and I should pop up. And you can also check out some of my book trailers on YouTube. I've got trailers up right now for Deceptive Visions and Eve of Ascension, and hopefully more to come.
Of course. And on that note, are there any upcoming projects that we can look out for in the future?
Yeah, actually, at the end of this month, I've got Rise of the Sylvans coming out, the second in the Ascendancy series, and I've also got the third Lauren Alasia book in the works, and I've just started working on a standalone novel that I'm really excited about. So that's a fresh project, so it's going to take me a while, but my goal is to get 3 novels out this year. So there's 3 right there.
Very nice. And of course, you can also get in touch with us at wazegamingcommunityarts@gmail.com, or you can find us at Wazegaming Community Arts on Facebook and on Instagram. That's all from me. Thanks so much again for taking the time to meet with me, Dan. I hope you have a really good day.
You as well. Thank you.